there's so many people out there doing side hustles. Like they're like, I think 90% of my questions that I get on my Instagram or like any other social platform is, how do you manage the time? How do you manage it with the full-time job? And I think that's not spoken enough.
I thought that would be really useful to kind of understand from you
Yeah.
this model that you've created for yourself. Because I do know that a lot of people do at least want to test it out and see, how it goes for
Yeah.
them. And yeah, I think if this inspires anyone to at least give it a shot or not give it a shot as well, I think our role is to kind of put the information out there, the reality of it out there, so that people can make informed choices for themselves.
Hey everyone, welcome to Yellow Door Talks. I am Sonam Mahajan, a mindfulness teacher and life coach. And today I'm in conversation with Inakshi Harneja, who is a full-time banker with a global corporate bank. She also has a lifestyle and fashion blog that she began 8 years ago. She is originally from India and is now based in London for the past few years. Today, let's talk to her about what it takes to turn your hobby into something more tangible while working a full-time job, and what is its impact on our well-being, our mental health, and our relationships. So let's jump right in.
Hi, Inakshi. Welcome to Yellow Door Talks. It's so wonderful to have you.
Hi Sonam, thank you for having me on. And I love the name as well, Yellow Door Talks.
Yeah, it's been fun exchanging with you over the last few weeks, and I have to say, Nakshi, your commitment to the blog, to the work that you do alongside having a full-time job, I think it's commendable. Uh, we all know nowadays that that itself is a full-time commitment in terms of being a public figure, influencer, blogger, whatever one may tend to call it, but it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, effort. And you've been doing this alongside a full-time banking job. So, I'm really
Yeah.
curious to understand from you, what is the reality of doing that, doing all of what you do look like? You've
Hmm.
been, and I know you've been in India. You started out this journey 8 years ago in India, and you've now been in London for the last few years. I don't know, perhaps to begin with, could you share what the 8 years have looked like, juggling all of this? What's the trajectory? Just a sense
Yeah.
before we dive deep into it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Sonam, and for the lovely intro as well. I actually completely agree that it's a full-time job with a full-time job because even with like content creation and blogging, you can never really switch off your brain. Even like this weekend, last night, I think in my sleep, I think of ideas now on what to do for my blog. So how it all started is so 8 years ago. Um, Blogging was very new, and in India I think there were like a handful of bloggers. I can literally count on my fingers. There were very few, and it was not that recognized as an industry. People were just starting out, so it was, people could still monetize it, but it was like very basic, so it wasn't something that you could make a full-time career out of. And I was studying finance at the time, so I wanted to get into finance full time. I wanted to do like risk in banking, and I also wanted to move to London. So even though like blogging was is super lucrative, it's like very exciting, it has all of the goods to it as well, but um as one of the con, it doesn't sponsor visa. So I wanted to move to the UK. Most of my like extended family is here, and for that I had to like get into finance. Even though I love my job, like my main job is something that I really enjoy, and blogging for me is more of a hobby. It's really my happy place, even though it is like super hectic and it gets intense. But I do try to like still keep it like not as a rat race, not as something that I break my head towards, but something that I enjoy. I love doing it. I love like taking pictures, posting about it, speaking
Yeah.
to the people like who I speak to. It's like a community that you build on your Instagram or like Clubhouse, for example, or YouTube for you, or like podcasts. It's like a community of people that you build and you want to stay connected with. So it's more for that for me,
Yeah.
rather than like the actual like intense job element of it.
Absolutely. I mean, you make
Yeah.
it sound easy. And uh, so, what was it like? You started out in India about 8 years ago. How long were you doing this in India? Was it commercial at that
Yeah.
point for you? How do you look at it? And now, of course, last few years in London.
Mhm. So in India, as soon as I started, I think the first month was like it was insane because I was speaking to like big designers and people were like inviting bloggers to fashion shows. And I think in my second month itself, I could monetize it, but not as much because still like it was like probably like only the big brands at the time who knew about blogging as a global thing
Yeah.
were actually inviting bloggers. So it was like it was a lot of fun in the sense that you could get to events. Like I think my first event was Satyapal,
Mm.
and that's where like Satyapal had invited like all of the bloggers. So it was like very exciting at the time, and my followers grew instantly as well. I was doing it before I was starting my master's in London. So essentially, I wasn't doing anything at the time. So for 6 months, I was also earning through it, bare minimum, because as I said, it wasn't that recognized, but it was still like I guess the graph was very like it was steep, it was like growing at a very fast pace at that point. So I did that for 6 months, then I moved to the UK for my masters, and my blog took a backseat for about 2 years because of masters, and then finding a job here, getting a work visa was very intense. But now I've started doing it again for I'd say from the last 2.5 years. And initially it was difficult to get my foot into the South Asian community here, like being like establishing myself as an Indian somewhere else
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
London. So that was like a bit of a challenge, but now
Yeah.
it's getting the hang of it. Yeah.
Right. And what do you find most challenging about this? Because now you have the banking role that you're doing, Monday to Friday,
Yeah.
and perhaps sometimes on the weekend as well. What's that like, or what's the toughest part of doing everything that you're doing at the moment?
So Sonam, I think now during lockdown it's been easier, but before, like I would say how the normal circumstances would be like,
Yeah.
it's very challenging in terms of the energy and the time that's spent into it. So even time wise, if you manage the time, I try to manage my time really well in the sense that I would create content on a Sunday or a Saturday in bulk so that I can then upload it during the week and I don't have to really stress about it. But then the energy levels drop and you don't have time for your family, your friends over the weekends, and you're like doing another job basically over the weekends. So it's like
Mm.
7 days of nonstop working. So I think that's when it gets a bit challenging, and that's when it touches that point. Earlier, I would say for the past, like before lockdown, I would by Sundays I would have no energy left. I wasn't able to get out of the bed, and then I took in a conscious effort to change that in a way that I will keep like my well-being and my like energy levels my priority, and then like manage everything along with that. And I think for me, lockdown came, even though it's really sad, whatever's happening in the world, but like personally, it's helped me in the sense that now I'm able to manage my time better. I have more energy. I have like don't have to travel anywhere, so can create content
Yeah.
over the weekends, and really like in the mornings I can be on my phone during my lunch breaks.
Yeah.
So it's helped in that sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is important, right? I mean, just for anyone listening in, uh, who's also aspiring to do something along with work. And a number of us have hobbies, passions, whatever, however
Yeah.
we tend to look at it. And it need not be an either or, either being employed or either doing something of your own. I think what you're doing is a perfect example of being able to pursue both
Blend the
sides of
two.
it, right?
Yeah.
So of course that's the positive side of things, but
Yeah.
as you brought out, I think it
Yeah.
comes with its own sacrifices, it comes with its
Yeah.
compromises, and it's also a conscious decision that you're making to then do that over the weekends, for example. Was this straightforward for you to kind of think through and make sense of, or do you still kind of question why you're doing what you're doing?
I had to learn it the hard way. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there have been times when I've had the burnout, and I've like given my body just gives up, and I'm really tired for that Sunday evening, and not ready to like take on the week. So there have been times when I had to take days off from work because I was really tired. Um, but I think, as you said, like it is a conscious effort and something that I've now like consciously challenged in the sense that I don't let myself get to the burnout point. Like I
Mm.
would manage my time and I would like stop it as like however much I can do. um like for example, yesterday I just like met a few friends like in a socially distant manner, and just like spend time with my friends. I spoke to like my family on Zoom, and then today I'm ready to like create content because I did take that day off yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's not impossible. If anyone listening wants to now like start something as a hobby, along with a full-time job, it's definitely doable. It comes with this, yeah, as you said, challenges and sacrifices, but you learn like month on month, you learn how to like then embrace those challenges and make the most of it. And I think it also comes down to what you want to prioritize.
Yeah.
Like for me, it gives me like so much joy. It makes me like happy when I'm creating content. Like for this call, I was so excited to like
Yeah.
talk to you about it because it's like genuinely my passion and it comes from the heart.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely like plus and minus, like pros and cons to it. But
Yeah.
if you know what you're doing and if you're doing it for a reason,
Yeah.
and that reason is clear, it
Yeah.
kind of helps. Yeah.
That's so beautifully said, Inakshi. I think that's what happens, right? Given that this is so hard to do on most days, you
Yeah.
really need that counter force, whether it's the passion or the drive or the motivation, commitment to doing what you're doing. I think otherwise there's no way to kind of get past that. uh,
Yeah.
let's come to, and I love the part where you've started making these conscious shifts or plugging in these pauses
Yeah.
for yourself that are enabling your mental health, your
Yeah.
well-being. But before we jump into that journey and how you
Yeah.
kind of work through that,
Yeah.
could you highlight what are the specific kind of challenges that come out? You mentioned burnout is one.
Burnout is
What
one.
are the other challenges, say, when you were, if you were to think about it from a mental health perspective or overall, wellness, health, exercise perspective, or just taking care of yourself, self-care as well, your relationships? What are the challenges? Just, again, from for somebody who's looking to do this, just so that they know that
Yeah.
what it comes with, as they take
Yeah.
the plunge. Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely burnout, I would say, Sonam, as I touched upon, is a very big one. Like your energy levels, your like just like sanity sometimes drops because you're thinking so much about like your content. And also like being like on social media, it also comes with like trolling, it comes with hate, it comes with people judging your life. It
Mm,
also like sometimes like people think that, oh, like when is she even working, is she even doing her work, like but that's like one part of my life that I don't put on social media. So I feel like people also get the sense of like they know everything about you, and that's like how like people start judging you or like hate comments. So far, touch wood, I haven't had, I've only had like probably 2 instances in 8 years of like trolling, but that's something that people need to be conscious about. That's something you will have to think like, how much of your life do you want to put in on social media? Like, do you want to put your work? Do you want to like put your personal life, or do you want to just keep the two separate? So I think that's another challenge. And second, as you said, some sacrifices have to be made. Like there are times when you won't be able to like see a friend because you have like a shoot commitment, or like you're doing a brand campaign, so you don't have time for like your family. So I think those kind of sacrifices sometimes you have to make, but then that's also a conscious effort on what you want to prioritize on which day per se.
correct.
um, so I feel like now even like most of my friends are now also bloggers, because that's just a shift in my friend circle that's also happened. It's
Yeah.
just because it's easier to then like relate to them and they can relate to you. And the people that I even like met up with yesterday, they're all like doing their full-time jobs along with the blog, so you have like common topics to discuss about, you have the drive to discuss. So I think that's one challenge, that maybe like some sacrifices, burnout, like hate on the internet. And
Yeah.
also something else, like while working full time, there are also like certain restrictions that come with your job. Like for example, I work in banking, so I had to disclose everything before, like in my first month of working, that this is what I do, these are the kind of campaigns that I can take on. So I think that's also a good point to just like keep in mind, that you will have to like put that across to your firm as well, and that might come with its own set of like challenges, in the sense they can say no to certain content or certain posts, so you have to be really careful. Being a
Right.
full-time blogger gives you that flexibility, but doing it part-time along with the job, you have to like keep the job, I think, as a priority, and then work your blog along with it in a way.
Right. Great points, Inakshi. And I think that's the beauty of it, right? I think just the awareness of what the journey comes with is sufficient
Yeah,
for someone to take the call, because again, this is not for
yeah,
everyone. But yeah, just being a little bit more informed before we perhaps take the plunge, or at least if you're going through that journey, there is that context that there are other people going through it as well. And whether one
yeah,
chooses to push through that,
yeah,
and it's not easy, right? It's a personal call that one can choose to make.
yeah,
Okay, let's talk about how are you working through some of this. You mentioned taking the time consciously to pause, to meet with friends, to refuel
yeah.
yourself, whether it's with family. Um, what else? What else do you do to kind of make this possible?
So I think time management is a big aspect of it, because I think that defines everything else that you've just said. Managing friends, family life, well-being,
Yeah,
it can all happen once you are able to like probably organize yourself. So earlier I was just like posting whenever, creating content whenever, but now I've made a conscious effort that I will dedicate one day to create content in bulk. And that's how like I plan my posts in advance as well. So it just like over the week I don't have to think about like stressing about like content and pictures and getting ready, because it's a lot of effort, like speaking to brands and like filming your own pictures, doing your own makeup, getting ready, and like it comes with its own like challenges and time required. So that's what I do. I time manage myself very well, in the sense that it doesn't affect other things in my life, especially my well-being, because I don't really feel burnt out now, because I know I've planned everything in a way that it should like it shouldn't affect my like sanity or energy or like well-being.
yeah,
So that's I think one. Second, always going back to your why like you're doing this, why you've started it, and just like if like you're swaying away from what your core values are, what you're doing it for. So for example, my blog, I know it's my happy place, it's my hobby, and I will only post about certain things, like fashion, beauty, skincare. But if I like if I sway from it, then I consciously come back to my why. Okay, why am I doing this? If some days I'm super stressed about posting, I go back to my why. Okay, this is a hobby. This I don't have to take this too seriously to like lose my sleep over it. So then that's I think very important as well, just to like questioning yourself and just like keeping yourself on check more than anything.
absolutely.
Um,
No, to completely. And I think it all adds up into, like I said, I think you need that counter force when you are up against what you described, right? It's not an easy
yeah,
journey, and you need to keep reminding yourself. You need to keep
yeah, that's right.
motivating yourself, and the consistency, I think that's most important, because motivation also
Yeah,
doesn't last. It doesn't take you too far, so you need that those processes in place to take that
yeah,
load off, I think, mentally as well, so you're not thinking about it day in
yeah.
and day out. Love that, Inakshi. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
actually, something that you touched upon there, consistency. I feel like even consistency is a conscious effort, and it has to be planned. Because
Yeah,
if I'm not if I'm not like clicking pictures over the weekend, then during the week when I'm working long hours, I will not be able to do anything
right.
and won't be able to be consistent. So I think even consistency is in a way planned, that if you do have a picture to post and it's ready to go, then it's going to go in a consistent manner. But if
True.
like on days when work is very hectic, which it can be during the week, if I didn't have a picture, I won't have the time to click it. Like sometimes earlier I used to feel that okay, during my lunch break I'll get ready, take a picture and then upload it. But realistically that never happens. So it's good to just like plan it in advance so that you can be consistent.
Correct.
um
And I think
so yeah,
that mental load of not having to think about it every single day, or to even have that additional task,
yeah,
right? That
yeah,
takes a lot away without us even realizing. I think if you've
yeah,
got done with that, you know that Monday to Friday you're focusing on what you're focusing on, as opposed to having these tiny little tasks associated with the blogging in
exactly.
there as well. So yeah, absolutely, I
Yeah.
resonate with that. Thank you, Inakshi. I think that's what I thought that would be really useful to kind of understand from you
Yeah.
this model that you've created for yourself, because I do know that a lot of people do at least want to test it out and see how it goes for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think if this gives inspires anyone to at least give it a shot or not give it a shot as well, I think our role is to kind of put the information out there, the reality of it out there, so that people can make informed choices for themselves.
Yeah, and especially like Sonam, after using Clubhouse for a bit, I've realized there are so many people out there doing side hustles. Like they're like I think 90% of my questions that I get on my Instagram or like any other social platform is how do you manage the time? How do you manage it with the full-time job? And I think that's not spoken enough. So yeah, I completely agree with you that that's something that people are, I think, now willing to know more of, and consider it more than ever. So thank you actually for like initiating this conversation and having me on here. And I just want to like add one book that I just got reminded of. So I love this book called The 5 Second Rule by Mel Robbins. I
Mhm.
don't know if you've read it, but that the concept of that book is that it takes 5 seconds for your brain to convince you that you can't do anything. So if you just count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and then go ahead with whatever you're thinking to do, then you can do it. So you can like really like challenge your and like channel your mind in a way to do any task. So if like someone wants to start a side hustle and has like
Yeah,
too many questions about it, I would just say give yourself those 5 seconds, dive into it, look into like podcasts like this or like videos like this, and just like learn what are the pros and cons, but still give it a shot, if someone
absolutely.
feels it makes sense for them.
Absolutely, Nakshi. Thank you for your time, for making time for this as well. And really appreciate it. I look forward to this being useful to many more out there.
I hope so too. Thank you, Sonam.